Hello there, and in this video I will be reading my own letter in the East Lothian Courier, dated Thursday, December the 21st, 2023. Why am I doing that? I know it sounds a bit egotistical reading one's own letter, but I think it's kind of apropos what I'm trying to do with this channel. Just so you know, East Lothian Courier is the local paper for East Lothian, which is just next door to Edinburgh, and in Scotland. And I think it's a nice wee paper. It's £1.40 currently. This was last week's newspaper. So in viewpoints, we have. It wasn't the Star letter this time. Now I do write every so often. Now the Star letter was about pause for flood scheme justified. I'll go back to that in a minute. Then about potholes, too much hate regarding SNP and antisocial behaviour, hidden gem regarding East Linton, festive feelings, and compliment about the Dunbar Christmas lights. Now the Star letter by Christine Schaefer, that basically, I'm not going to go into here, but the local council is pushing for flood defences in a manner which an awful lot of local people are against. It's a very complicated issue, but I think part of the problem is, and I think it's the same everywhere, a lot of local councils, their administration, they tend to they go by their own procedures and policies, and often they don't really consult or get into collaboration with community groups and the public. Part of it is because, dare I say, gauging public opinion is really difficult, and partly because of the technical side of things. But I think, particularly nowadays, in today's world, where an awful lot of community groups they do have a huge wealth of collective information and collective experience. I think the days of councils basically feeling that just because they think it's right has gone, and really they need to curry public opinion and engage and do proper outreach. So it is sad when you see councils, I think, bullying or just pushing forward regardless. So part of the reason I wrote in was because we had our own situation with Herdman Flat, which is a housing development pushing into a area which used to be communal land. It was then ceded to the NHS for the well-being of the town. It had been used for community like Gymkhana and fates and whatnot, and as you do when the old hospital there closed, it got sold to the council, and the council is now pushing to develop it. Their interpretation of the well-being of the town is that they're going to make, I think it's 140 units plus 140 parking spaces, with a percentage going to elderly homes. But the devil's in the detail, and really this is one of the last green spaces. Yes, it used to be a brownfield site, but I mean, you can see that the large part of it was grassland, and basically it's going to be a generic building, 3-story kind of thing. It's not in keeping with the historic town centre. It's an archaeological interest, and basically it's getting developed. So, but what I'll do is I'll read my letter. I should warn that I do help out infrequently um, with the speaking papers. And one of the things is I used to work as a telephone for a charity, a phone counselor, and also I used to work at a helpline with taxation, which was very boring, as well as first point of contact for local government. So one of the feedbacks I used to get was that my voice was quite boring and monotone. I also used to get mistaken for a lady a lot of the time, or weirdly, people would assume my accent from various different countries, and they would get. So I try to have a speaking voice for when I do the recordings for the speaking papers for a deaf for a blind charity. So apologies beforehand for my slight change of voice. So here we go. So I'll take my glasses off. So now I don't know why they decided to use this tagline. I use its assets because too much hate, festive feeling, pause a flood scheme, hidden gem, pothole luck, and then I got use its assets. So you can judge that. So when the First Minister visited Haddington, he admitted that East Lothian Council was facing significant challenges, which, given the financial crisis and the growing pressure on council funding, is a bit of an understatement. As a community councillor and chair of a local tenants and residents association, I regularly see the pressures local government and the community are experiencing and the outcome it is having on ordinary people. I also see the community and the council are showing remarkable grace under pressure, so I am optimistic that we can, if we work together, get through these difficult times. That's why I am pleased to be part of the area partnership, as it helps groups and projects to the betterment of the town. Yes, it is bitterly disappointing to see the council continually making own goals and failing to hear what people and the community are wanting. It's not just East Lothian, but something that is affecting councils all over this fabulous country. Because of shrinking budgets and a reduced workforce, councils are forced to do more with less. The result is that council departments often respond either in a perfunctory way or worse yet, in a reactionary way. Often organizations under stress get into the habit of putting out fires and muddling on rather than finding the time to find more permanent solutions. A case in point would be the Herdman Flat Planning Application 63-01367-ppm that has been made after considerable delay on the council's part during the Christmas and New Year holidays. The deadline is December 31st, and there isn't much time to lodge objections, let alone organize public meetings. The Community Council asked for an extension, and they got it, but the people of Haddington didn't get that consideration. That feels wrong to me. Earlier this year, the TRA organized a number of well-attended events, as well as discussions with East Lothian Council Housing Department and their developers. So surely that shows the people's commitment to engagement on this issue, and so choosing such a busy time feels like a systemic failure in the council's commitment to collaboration and community engagement. Would a January deadline hurt so much? It seems to me that the council is failing to act collaboratively with much of the public. A similar story can be seen in the Musselburgh flood defences debacle, the North Berwick hedgerow complaints, and ongoing concerns regarding parking issues and the mental health crisis. It doesn't have to be that way, and I know many in the council agree. We need to find a way to communicate better and for the council to think more proactively about how to engage the community and the public. The council needs to make use of its assets more proactively, and that includes the community itself. There are so many community groups wanting to be heard and take part in the decision-making process, so it's upsetting that this isn't the case. Now, I must apologize. That was a kind of rambly, bitty letter. The reason I wrote it like that was, well, first off, it was a bit like flogging a dead donkey. The council, we were warned that the council might put in the planning application during the holiday period, and that's what they did. Now they were supposed to do it in April, no, May, and yet they did it in into December. So as you can imagine, most people on the run up to Christmas, New Year, planning is not a thing. Also, a lot of people are away. So we did ask to, why can't it be January? But they were like, no, 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 no. There doesn't seem to be any reason why they would suddenly push that it had to be done then when they hadn't done it for such a long time. And there's nobody. No, we've asked why, no answer. So you can't help but think that this is a deliberate thing. So, but unfortunately, once again, because we weren't able to do public meetings on such short notice, it's actually quite difficult to get venues in our area. So, and also when you don't get a public meeting, it's hard to get into the paper. So that was the only way I could kind of get into the paper, by mentioning it, and on the off chance somebody reads it. But as you can see, two of the letters, possibly three, are about similar things. So that it's not just me. It's other people in the region, in the area. Now I mentioned the own goals. The reason is, and unfortunately, we're finding this more and more, that at local councils and some businesses, they now become reactionary. And by that I mean, instead of actually being proactive or exploring an issue, they just react because they're wanting to get it off their plate. So somebody complains, send out generic complaint letters. Somebody wants something investigated. Is it in our area? Is it not in our area? It's not in our area. No, it's nothing to do with us. So they're constantly batting stuff away, and in the way of doing that, errors are coming in, and we're seeing this more and more. Things are being taken at face value, or they're not being investigated, or they're not being pushed for. So I wanted to raise that. An example would be, we contacted about something which the council had failed to detect, and they then sent out a generic investigation letter to the wrong people. And then when we kind of said, well, why are you sending it to these people? Because it's actually something else. We then got really sort of passive aggressive response. So I raised it, and I could see actually where they were going. They were just reacting to it as an ordinary complaint, whereas actually talking about, I won't get into technical things, but it was actually talking about utilities in the area. And they didn't respond to that. And then when I said, well, can this be to the feedback team, I then got this weird letter from them saying, well, yes, they didn't do what they were supposed, they did what they did because they're following the procedure, even though I said to them, well, you're following the procedure, but the result is an incorrect thing. Well, anyway, so you can see how it's procedures without thinking. It's jobs worth. Yeah. So anyway, so then of course I mentioned the deadline, and the thing is I've already mentioned the Musselburgh flood defences thing. The North Berwick hedgerows, basically there's old hedgerows full of wildlife. You know, we're in a climate emergency. Um, this council decided just to tear them up. The local school, you know, and the pupils said, you know, this is an historic hedge, shouldn't be lifted up. They did it anyway. And often they kind of fire back and go, oh well, currently the legislation is you're supposed to actually, if you're going to do something like that, you have to, you know, you have to kind of do you know, do a positive somewhere else. But right now, often what they do is these contractors who plant trees, and they plant trees all over the place, which is good, except often they plant these trees in places where the trees aren't really going to do very well. And for those people who in the know, most of the trees they plant actually die off. And also, you know, it's not one for one. So if I chop down a tree, I'm destroying that little ecosystem. If I plant a tree, it takes 10 to 20 years for that ecosystem to recover. So that's not an equitable, you know. So, but the council's not, and the feeling I get is because more stronger legislation is in the off, the councils are kind of rushing to do as much as they can, which I think is not in the spirit of it. It's not one of my better letters. Um, but you know, I think it sort of encapsulates some of my feeling. But is also why I kind of want to start doing sort of videos and then doing it on our community website. Not just me. I mean, I'm talking about actually filming outside. So that's why I'm wanting to do the video editing and then get used to saying things, because one of the things is when you write it down, particularly when you're writing to a newspaper, it tends to be read by people of, you know, of a certain, you know, mindset. Whereas when you actually see yourself doing a video, you go, oh, actually, I'm waffling there. Actually, that's off point. Actually, I need a shave. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to do here. But anyway, I just thought I'd read my letter out there because why not? And so there you go. Well, anyway, thank you very much, and hopefully I didn't waste your time there, but if I did, sorry about that. Anyway, thank you very much, and goodbye.